There's a profound truth that echoes in the depths of every human heart. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Right now, in this very moment, someone in this room is carrying a burden that feels almost too heavy to bear. Someone is wrestling with a hurt so deep it seems to have carved itself into their very soul. And that's exactly why we're here together. Let's begin with a fundamental reality that often gets overlooked in our rush to heal. It's okay not to be okay. It's perfectly natural to feel wounded when life deals us a crushing blow. The raw ache of betrayal, the hollow emptiness of loss, the searing pain of rejection. These are all part of our shared human experience. But here's what most people never realize. The initial hurt isn't what causes our deepest suffering. It's our desperate attempt to avoid it, deny it, or cling to it that prolongs our... Think about that for a moment. When you're physically injured, what happens if you constantly tense up around the wound? The tension creates more pain, doesn't it? The same principle applies to our emotional injuries. The more we resist feeling our hurt, the more power we give it over our lives. But there's something remarkable that happens when we finally give ourselves permission to acknowledge our pain without trying to fix it or fight it. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room. Suddenly there's space for fresh air to flow in. So the first step toward finding peace in the midst of hurt. Simply allowing ourselves to be where we are without judgment. Now you might be thinking that's easier said than done. And you're absolutely right. Our natural instinct when we're hurt is to build walls, to protect ourselves, to strike back, or to withdraw completely. These reactions seem logical in the moment, don't they? But here's what we often fail to see. Every time we react from our hurt, instead of responding from our hearts, we're actually reinforcing the very pain we're trying to escape. Have you ever noticed how a single painful event can ripple through your entire life? A harsh word from someone important to you might echo in your mind for days. A betrayal might color how you view every new relationship. A failure might make you question your worth in all areas of your life. This happens because we tend to grip our hurts tightly, turning them into a lens through which we view our entire world. But what if there was another way? What if, instead of letting our hurts define us, we could learn to let them refine us? What if every painful experience carried within it the seeds of our greatest growth? The truth is, finding peace when you're hurt isn't about pretending the pain doesn't exist. It's not about forcing yourself to get over it or move on before you're ready. Real peace comes from developing a new relationship with your pain, one that allows you to acknowledge its presence while simultaneously recognizing that you are far more than your hurts. Think of your consciousness as a vast sky and your hurt as a storm cloud passing through it. The storm might be intense, it might be dark, it might even seem endless, but you are the sky. The sky doesn't fight the storms that pass through it. It doesn't try to push them away or hold on to them. It simply remains vast and unchanging, allowing everything to move through it naturally. This is the essence of true emotional freedom. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of something greater than pain. It's the understanding that while hurt happens to us, it doesn't have to become us. This understanding doesn't come from intellectual knowledge alone. It comes from a deeper place of wisdom within each of us. Let's explore what happens in those moments when we're first struck by hurt. Our immediate reaction is often to contract, to close down, to protect ourselves. This is a natural response, but it's crucial to recognize that this initial reaction is just that, a reaction, not a solution. When we contract around our pain, we actually intensify it. It's like grabbing a hot coal. The tighter we hold on, the more it burns. The alternative isn't to pretend we're not hurt or to suppress our natural reactions. Instead, it's about learning to create space around our pain. This space allows us to see our hurt for what it is, an experience we're having, not who we are. When we can make this subtle but profound shift in perspective, something remarkable begins to happen. The hurt doesn't immediately disappear, but it starts to lose its power to control our lives. Consider how often we magnify our pain through the stories we tell ourselves about it. Something happens. Someone betrays our trust. We face a significant loss. We experience rejection. And immediately our minds begin weaving elaborate narratives about what this means about us, about others, about life itself. These stories often become more painful than the original hurt. But here's a liberating truth. You can acknowledge your hurt without buying into every story your mind creates about it. You can feel pain without suffering from it. If we're willing to stay present with our pain long enough to understand what it has to teach us. This doesn't mean wallowing in our hurt or using it as an excuse to remain stuck. Rather, it means developing the capacity to hold our pain with gentleness and wisdom, knowing that like everything else in life, this too shall pass. When we can approach our hurt with this kind of balanced awareness, we begin to discover something extraordinary. Peace isn't the absence of pain. It's the presence of understanding. This understanding isn't something that happens overnight. It's not a destination we reach once and for all. It's a practice, a journey, a moment-by-moment choice to relate to our hurt in a new way. And like any practice, it becomes stronger and more natural the more we engage with it. As we continue this exploration together, remember that every person in this room has experienced hurt in their own unique way. Yet beneath our individual stories of pain lies a universal truth. We all have within us the capacity to find peace, even in the midst of our deepest hurts. This capacity isn't something we need to develop. It's already there, waiting to be recognized and embraced. This brings us to a crucial understanding about the nature of our reactions to hurt. Every time we experience pain, our mind and body create an immediate response, a complex web of thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations that can feel overwhelming. These reactions aren't wrong or bad. They're perfectly natural, but they don't have to be our final destination. Let's explore these reactions more deeply. When hurt strikes, it typically triggers one of several responses. Anger, which makes us want to strike back. Fear, which makes us want to withdraw. Or sadness, which can leave us feeling paralyzed. Some of us might experience all these reactions simultaneously, creating an internal storm that seems impossible to navigate. But here's something remarkable about human consciousness. We have the ability to observe our reactions without being completely consumed by them. This is a game-changing insight that most people never fully grasp. You can feel angry without becoming anger itself. You can experience fear without letting it control your decisions. You can acknowledge sadness without drowning in it. Think about times in your life when hurt has triggered an automatic reaction. Perhaps someone's words cut deep, and you immediately felt the need to defend yourself or attack back. Maybe a rejection led to a spiral of self-doubt that affected every aspect of your life. These reactions feel automatic because they're based on old patterns, old wounds, old stories we've been carrying. But what if we could create a small space? Just a moment's pause between the hurt and our reaction to it. In that space lies our power to choose a different response. This isn't about suppressing our natural reactions or pretending they don't exist. It's about developing the capacity to feel everything while remaining connected to our deeper wisdom. This brings us to a profound truth about emotional healing. The way we talk to ourselves when we're hurt matters enormously. Many of us have an inner critic that becomes particularly vocal when we're already down. It might say things like, "You should be over this by now," or "Why do you always let this affect you so much?" This inner dialogue often creates a second layer of suffering on top of our original hurt. But we can learn to cultivate a different inner voice, one with wisdom and compassion. This voice doesn't deny our pain or try to rush us through it. Instead, it might say, "It's natural to feel this way," or "Take all the time you need to process this." This shift in inner dialogue can create a profound change in how we experience and move through our hurt. Let's talk about something that often gets overlooked in discussions about healing. The body's role in processing hurt. Emotional pain isn't just in our minds, it lives in our bodies too. When we're hurt, our bodies hold tension, our breathing becomes shallow, our muscles contract. Learning to recognize and release these physical manifestations of pain is crucial for finding peace. Take a moment right now to notice how your body feels. Are your shoulders tight? Is your jaw clenched? Is your breathing restricted? These physical responses to hurt are so automatic that we often don't even notice them. But becoming aware of them is the first step to releasing them. This brings us to a powerful practice for working with hurt: conscious breathing. When we're in pain, our breath becomes shallow and constricted. By deliberately deepening and slowing our breath, we send a signal to our nervous system that it's safe to relax, safe to release, safe to begin healing. But here's what makes this journey so challenging. And we live in a world that often encourages us to numb our pain rather than feel it. We're surrounded by endless distractions and ways to avoid facing our hurt. While these temporary escapes might provide momentary relief, they ultimately prevent us from accessing the deeper healing that comes through conscious awareness. Real healing happens when we dare to stay present with our experience even when it's uncomfortable. This doesn't mean we have to face everything all at once. We can take small steps, creating safe spaces to explore our hurt without becoming overwhelmed by it. This is where the practice of mindful awareness becomes invaluable. Mindful awareness isn't about analyzing our pain or trying to figure it all out intellectually. It's about developing the capacity to be with our experience exactly as it is, moment by moment. When we can do this, something remarkable begins to happen. The intensity of our pain often begins to shift naturally without us having to force anything. Think of it like this. When you're holding a heavy weight, the natural instinct might be to grip it tighter, but what actually helps is opening your hands, adjusting your stance, finding better balance. The same principle applies to emotional pain. The more we can open to it with awareness and compassion, the more we discover our natural capacity to hold it without being crushed by it. This leads us to another crucial aspect of working with hurt: the importance of self-compassion. Many of us find it easier to extend compassion to others than to ourselves. We might be able to comfort a friend who's hurting while being incredibly harsh with ourselves in similar situations. But self-compassion isn't self-indulgence. It's a vital ingredient in emotional healing. Imagine treating your hurt parts with the same kindness you would show to a small child who's in pain. You wouldn't scold them for crying. You wouldn't tell them to get over it. You would listen, comfort, and hold space for their pain to move through them naturally. This is the kind of attention our own hurt parts need from us. As we develop this more compassionate relationship with our pain, we begin to notice something surprising. Our hurt doesn't just contain pain, it also contains valuable information. Every experience of hurt can teach us something important about ourselves, about our needs, about our boundaries, about what matters most to us. This doesn't mean we should be grateful for being hurt or that everything happens for a reason. It simply means that within every painful experience lies the potential for deeper understanding and growth. But we can only access these insights when we're willing to stay present with our experience rather than rushing to escape it. The goal isn't to become someone who never feels hurt. That's neither possible nor desirable. The goal is to develop the capacity to hold our hurt in a way that allows for natural healing and transformation. This capacity grows stronger every time we choose to stay present with our pain rather than running from it or fighting against it. We continue this journey together. I invite you to consider what might change if you could relate to your hurt not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a part of yourself that needs your attention and care. What possibilities might open up if you could hold your pain with the same compassion you would offer to someone you deeply love? Forgiveness isn't about the other person at all. It's about your relationship with your own pain. It's about choosing to stop drinking the poison of resentment while hoping it will hurt someone else. Here's a profound truth that might change how you think about forgiveness. You don't forgive because the other person deserves it. You forgive because you deserve peace. Every moment you spend harboring resentment is a moment you could be experiencing joy, connection, or simple contentment instead. But let's be honest, the forgiveness isn't something that happens overnight. It's not a single decision or a one-time event. It's a process, often a gradual one, of releasing the grip that past hurts have on your present moment. Sometimes you might need to forgive the same thing multiple times, layer by layer, as you uncover deeper aspects of how that hurt has affected you. Holding on to hurt is like carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks. Each resentment, each unresolved pain, each grudge is another rock. You might have been carrying this weight for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to move through life without it. Forgiveness is about taking out those rocks one by one, examining them with compassion, and choosing to set them. It brings us to another crucial aspect of finding peace. Accepting what cannot be changed. Many of us prolong our suffering because we're fighting against reality itself. We get caught in cycles of if only, and if only they hadn't done that. If only I had done something differently. What if I had seen it coming? What if I had been better prepared? These thoughts might feel productive, as if we're working through something, but they often keep us stuck in patterns of resistance that prevent real healing. Acceptance doesn't mean you like what happened or that you wouldn't prefer things to be different. It simply means you're willing to acknowledge reality as it is, rather than exhausting yourself fighting against what has already occurred. Think about how much energy you spend wishing things were different. Imagine if you could redirect that energy toward creating a different future instead. This is what acceptance makes possible. Not a passive resignation to pain, but an active choice to work with reality rather than against it. Acceptance that might surprise you. Acceptance and forgiveness often walk hand in hand. When you truly accept what happened, forgiveness becomes more natural. And when you forgive, acceptance becomes easier. Together, they create a foundation for genuine peace. Not the fragile peace that comes from avoiding pain, but the lasting peace that comes from moving through it with wisdom and grace. But what about those really deep hurts? The ones that feel unforgivable? The betrayals that cut to the core of who we are? This is where we need to understand that forgiveness isn't an all-or-nothing proposition. You can forgive someone's actions while still acknowledging the pain they caused. You can release your resentment while still choosing not to have that person in your life. Sometimes the person we most need to forgive is ourselves. Self-forgiveness might be the hardest kind because we often hold ourselves to impossible standards. We replay our mistakes, our poor choices, our moments of weakness over and over as if it simply means you're choosing to stop carrying the weight of what they did. It brings us to another powerful truth. Every time you forgive, you strengthen your capacity for future forgiveness. It's like building a muscle. Each act of letting go makes the next one a little easier. This doesn't mean you won't still feel hurt when painful things happen. It means you'll have more confidence in your ability to move through that hurt without being defined by it. Remember that forgiveness and acceptance are gifts you give yourself. They're not about being noble or spiritually advanced. They're practical tools for creating more peace in your life. Every grudge you hold, every resentment you nurse, every past hurt you cling to is like a wall between you and your own happiness. Consider what might be possible in your life. If you weren't carrying all these old hurts around, how much more energy would you have? How much more freely could you move through your days? How much more open would you be to new experiences and relationships? This is what forgiveness and acceptance make possible. Not just the absence of pain, but the presence of possibility. What would it feel like to set down just one piece of old hurt today? Not because you've figured everything out, not because the other person deserves it, but simply because you deserve peace. What would it feel like to accept just one thing you've been fighting against? Not with resignation, but with the wisdom that fighting reality only creates more suffering. Now we come to the heart of our journey together, cultivating inner peace. This isn't about reaching some perfect state where nothing bothers you anymore. It's about developing a relationship with yourself that can weather any storm, that can find stillness even in the midst of chaos, that can hold space for both pain and peace to coexist. Inner peace isn't something that happens to us. It's something we cultivate through consistent practice. Just as you wouldn't expect to be physically fit by going to the gym once, you can't expect to find lasting peace through a single moment of insight. It's the small choices we make day after day that gradually transform our inner landscape. One of the most powerful practices for cultivating inner peace is learning to be present with whatever is arising in your experience. Most of our suffering comes from either dwelling in the past or anxiously anticipating the future. But peace can only be found in the present moment. It's the only place where we have the power to choose our response to life. Think about how much mental energy you spend rehearsing past hurts or imagining future scenarios. While some reflection and planning is necessary, Most of this mental time travel only serves to amplify our distress. When we bring our attention back to the present moment, we often find that right here, right now, we're actually okay. This is where the practice of mindfulness becomes invaluable. Mindfulness isn't about emptying your mind or achieving some special state. It's simply about paying attention to your present moment experience with openness and curiosity. When you're hurt, this might mean noticing the physical sensations in your body, the thoughts passing through your mind, the emotions rising and falling, all without getting caught up in the story about what it all means. There's a profound truth about finding peace. The more you can stay present with what is, the less power your hurt has over you. This doesn't mean the hurt disappears. It means you develop the capacity to hold it without being consumed by it. You learn to create space around your pain rather than being identified with it. Have you ever noticed how a room feels different when you open the windows and let fresh air flow through? The same principle applies to your inner experience. When you create space around your hurt through present moment awareness, you allow fresh perspectives and new possibilities to emerge naturally. But presence isn't just about sitting quietly and observing your experience. It's about bringing mindful awareness to everything you do. When you're walking, really feel your feet touching the ground. When you're eating, really taste your food. When you're talking with someone, really listen to what they're saying. These simple practices help anchor you in the present moment where peace is always available. One of the most overlooked aspects of finding peace is the importance of self-care. When we're hurt, we often neglect the very practices that could help us heal. We might stop exercising, eat poorly, isolate ourselves from supportive relationships, or abandon activities that bring us joy. But taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's essential for healing. Think of self-care as creating optimal conditions for peace to flourish. Say as a garden needs proper soil, water, and sunlight to thrive, your inner peace needs certain conditions to grow. This might mean setting aside time for quiet reflection, spending time in nature. It means you know that no matter what happens, you have the inner resources to move through it with grace. This kind of trust isn't naive optimism. It's grounded in the wisdom that comes from experiencing your own resilience. Consider the times in your life when you thought you couldn't handle something, but you did. Remember the hurts you thought would break you, but ultimately led to growth. Each of these experiences has strengthened your capacity to find peace in the midst of difficulty. You're stronger than, more resilient than you realize and wiser than you give yourself credit for. This is where the practice of gratitude becomes transformative. Not superficial gratitude that denies pain, but deep gratitude that can hold both the difficulty of your experience and an appreciation for the growth it makes possible. When you can find something to be grateful for even in your darkest moments, you've discovered one of the most powerful keys to peace. Let's talk about the role of community in finding peace. While inner peace is ultimately a personal journey, we don't have to walk this path alone. Surrounding yourself with supportive people who understand your journey, who can hold space for your pain without trying to fix it, who remind you of your strengths when you forget. This is invaluable. But be discerning about who you share your journey with. Not everyone will understand or support your path to peace. Some people might try to rush your healing, minimize your pain, or offer advice when what you really need is presence. It's okay to be selective about who you let into your inner circle during times of healing. Remember that finding peace is not a linear journey. There will be days when peace feels natural and easy and days when it feels impossibly far away. This is normal. Peace isn't about maintaining a constant state of calm. It's about developing the capacity to return to your center again and again, no matter how far you may have strayed. Think of peace as your natural state, like the deep ocean beneath surface waves. The waves of emotion, thought, and experience will continue to rise and fall. That's the nature of life. But beneath these surface movements, there's a deeper stillness that's always available to you. Your practice is simply to remember this truth and to find ways to access this stillness more and more. As we draw our journey together to a close, let's focus on how to move forward with grace, carrying these insights into our daily lives. Finding peace when you're hurt isn't a destination. It's an ongoing practice, a way of being that grows stronger with each conscious choice we make. Moving forward doesn't mean leaving everything behind. It means learning to carry your experiences in a way that makes you stronger rather than weighing you down. Every hurt you've experienced has taught you something valuable about yourself, about life, about what matters most. These lessons become part of your wisdom, informing how you move through the world. Think about how different your life could be if you approached each day with the intention to find peace, no matter what circumstances arise. This is part of something much larger than yourself. But let's be real about something. This journey isn't always going to feel good. There will be days when old hurts resurface unexpectedly. There will be times when new wounds catch you off guard. There will be moments when peace feels like a distant dream rather than a present reality. This is all part of the process. The key is to remember that these challenging moments don't negate your progress. Just as physical healing isn't always comfortable, emotional healing sometimes involves discomfort. The pain you feel isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's often a sign that you're moving through something important. Think of yourself as an artist of your own life, and peace as the masterpiece you're creating. Like any great work of art, it takes time, patience, and dedication. There will be moments of inspiration and moments of frustration. There will be times when you need to step back and rest, and times when you need to engage more deeply. One of the most powerful choices you can make is to stop waiting for perfect conditions to find peace. Peace isn't something that happens when everything in your life is sorted out. It's something you choose in the midst of whatever is happening. It's available right now. In this moment, regardless of your circumstances, remember that every moment offers a new beginning. No matter how many times you've lost your center, no matter how many times you've gotten caught up in old patterns, you always have the opportunity to choose peace again. This isn't about perfection. It's about practice. Consider how much of your life energy has been spent fighting against what is resisting your experience, trying to control outcomes. Imagine redirecting all that energy toward creating the life you want to live. This is what becomes possible when you make peace your priority. Your capacity for peace is like a muscle that grows stronger with use. Each time you choose to respond to hurt with wisdom rather than reaction, each time you practice forgiveness instead of holding on to resentment, each time you return to the present moment instead of getting lost in past or future, you're strengthening this capacity. There's something profoundly liberating about realizing that peace is always available to you. It's not dependent on other people changing or circumstances being different. It's a choice you can make right here, right now, and again in the next moment. Think about the kind of person you want to be, the kind of life you want to live, the kind of impact you want to have on the world. Let these visions guide your choices as you move forward. Let them remind you why finding peace matters. Not just for your own well-being, but for the well-being of all those whose lives you touch. Remember that every step you take toward peace, no matter how small it might seem, matters. Every moment you choose presence over distraction, every time you respond with compassion instead of judgment, every instance where you choose to let go rather than hold on, these are all victories worth celebrating. Your journey toward peace is uniquely yours. No one else can walk this path for you, but you're not alone. Every person who has ever chosen peace over conflict, love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, they're walking alongside you in spirit, creating a collective field of possibility for healing and transformation. As you leave here today, know that you carry within you everything you need to find peace, even in the midst of hurt. You have the wisdom to navigate difficult emotions, the strength to face what needs to be faced, and the capacity to heal what needs to be healed. The question isn't whether you can find peace. You absolutely can. The question is, will you make the choice again and again to turn toward peace rather than away from it? Will you remember, even in your most challenging moments, that peace is your natural state, your birthright, your true home? Let each breath be a reminder that peace is available right now. Let each step be a movement toward greater awareness and understanding. Let each interaction be an opportunity to practice what you've learned. The path of peace is calling you, and you are ready to walk it. This journey you're on isn't just about finding peace for yourself. It's about becoming an embodiment of peace in a world that desperately needs it. Every time you choose peace over conflict, every time you respond with love instead of fear, you're contributing to the healing of not just yourself, but the entire world. Know that whatever challenges lie ahead, whatever hurts you may encounter, you have within you the capacity to meet them with grace, wisdom, and peace. This is your journey, your path, your truth to live. And it begins anew with each breath, each moment, each choice. The peace you seek has never left you. It's been within you all along, waiting to be recognized, waiting to be lived, waiting to be shared. Your task now is simply to remember this truth, to live from this understanding, and to let your life become a testament to the possibility of finding peace, even when you're hurt,